make sure that if you don't have your leaders on the call, your diplomats and above, make sure you take a quick few seconds, send them a message, and get them all onto the call right now. Because again, this call is going to be directly related to what you can use for this coming Thursday evening. So as I'm talking, I'm also doing the same thing, sending a quick few messages here to a few of the people that I know might not have been informed about this kind of call. But again, these CDSE calls every Monday night are something that really you want every single person in your team to be on, because we cover different topics that really relate a lot more to the leadership core. Because again, you guys are the main leaders, you're the face of the company, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right things and of course passing on the right information. So, and when I got started, I was always literally clinging onto these calls because I knew how much it would do for my own business. So without further ado, here we go, talking about the post-tour training. And this is really important because if you want to increase the ratio of closing in your meetings, this is something that not only do you want to learn for yourself, but you also want to share some of this stuff with the people in your team. So really quickly, why is post-tour important? Really, I want you to remember that your candidates and your prospects, when they're looking at GWT, they are not making a one-time purchase. They are really making a long-term commitment, okay? So understand there's a very big difference between, just buying something one time. Here at GWT, they're usually making a long-term commitment. Okay, so we're talking about deciding to come in as a package. I'm not referring to retail sales. That's a one-time purchase. I'm referring to people launching into the business. And the main difference between the two for the purchaser or the prospect is that one requires post-purchase commitment and effort, and the other doesn't. So psychologically speaking, the main key difference between, again, someone looking at GWT versus just buying something is that with GWT, it requires a post-purchase commitment and effort. So it requires something to be done after doing the sale, right? And there's one factor can make the buying decision more difficult for the candidates due to one main thing being lack of confidence. So if you find people who are not really getting started after your presentations or your meetings, it's usually related to a lack of confidence that they have, okay? And so it is vital for your candidates to feel the unity and caring in your team right after the tour, because this teamwork represents hope for them and it gives them confidence. So sometimes people who are looking at opportunity, when they don't really have much confidence in themselves, if they can see a really strong team unity and collectiveness and togetherness in your team, then what they're feeling is, wow, I can actually gain my confidence from these people. So to them, it's hope. So very important to understand that we want to make sure that the post-tour things that happen are going to be designed in a way that gives our candidates and our prospects a huge sense of confidence. And remember, your candidates and your prospects perceive the business through you. And since most people lack the very first time that personal confidence, that post-tour must be conducted properly, okay? And so below, I'm gonna share with you guys a real fail-proof process to convert all of your prospects or candidates into participants, okay? So here we go. The first point of all that will allow you to have a proper post-tour really relates to the pre-tour, which is to arrive early. And this is one of the most basic things that people don't really realize, is that you don't want to arrive 5 minutes before the tour starts. You kind of want to arrive earlier as possible. Now for those of you who are in Toronto, most of you guys get to the showroom a lot earlier to show your people the actual showroom, which is fantastic. This is more for people who are sort of showing up at regular meetings, or even people that are in Toronto. If you go to the showroom, you want to make sure you leave soon enough to get to the hotel tour as well early enough. So you want to arrive at least 20 minutes earlier, mainly to create more like and trust with your prospect, okay? And this is so important because sometimes you might not really, whether you don't know your prospect that well or you know them very well, it doesn't matter. Either way, you want to spend a lot of time before the meeting starts to rebuild that relationship and to create a whole lot more like and trust between both people. Okay, so again, very important to create that like and trust with your team. I get a sense that my PowerPoint just crashed. So give me a second while I just quickly restart my PowerPoint. It just, for some reason, just failed on me. But in the meantime, again, definitely remember that the post-tour is not just really after the tour. I always say that a lot of the times the closing doesn't really happen after the tour. The closing often happens even before the tour starts. It begins, again, with like and trust. So just opening up my PowerPoint here and getting back to my actual meeting. And if you guys are having any audio issues, please let me know. But as far as I know, I'm pretty loud and clear here, which is great. Okay, so back to our PowerPoint here. The next thing you want to do, again, is to arrive early, also because you want to get better seating. This is a major thing. And a lot of times I see people who bring in their guests, and even though they might come in a little bit later or really right before the tour starts, sometimes even after the tour starts, which is not good at all, you want to make sure that you bring your guests up to the front of the room, okay? I did a training call a while back ago, and I was kind of joking around that, back in high school or maybe in church, whatever, you thought it was cool to sit at the back of the room. Okay, it's not cool anymore. All right, in this business, what is cool is being at the front of the room. So you want to make sure you sit at the front of the room. And we have a whole slide coming up that just talks about the reasons why you want to be at the front of the room. But again, you want to arrive early just to get better seating. Okay, so again, so we talked about creating more like and trust. We build that bond. Again, when you're building like and trust, what you're doing there is you're making your prospect feel more comfortable. They're not just walking into a big meeting room and all of a sudden they're just listening to the presenter. You want to make sure they get a chance to, slowly get a chance to warm up to the room, get used to the room, and of course, get used to just being comfortable in that room. Okay, and so definitely do that. Another reason why you want to arrive early is because you want to set a good example. And don't forget, leaders lead by example, right? You can't ask your team to be there early if you're not there. So again, part of being early is just from that optic point of view. You want to show your team that you're there early. So when you tell them, hey, you should be here 20 minutes earlier, you can say it because you're there 20 minutes earlier as well too. Another reason why you want to aim to be there early is because sometimes you don't know, there's always traffic. Okay, you don't want your prospect, to be waiting for you at that location while you're stuck in traffic, because you don't know who they might run into. You don't know if they're getting positive stuff. They might run to a sunblock. You don't want to take any chances with your prospect being there before you are. Okay, so again, if you had, for example, a major interview coming up for a new job that could pay you 30 grand more, I'm pretty sure you would leave your house a lot earlier and get there earlier, right? So whenever possible, just be there at least 20 minutes earlier, because again, sometimes things come up, and if you're aiming to be 20 minutes earlier, then most of the time you'll be there on time. Okay, so that's one part, is just arriving there earlier. The second thing you want to do, again, that's more of a pre-tour, but again, it really relates to the closing process with your prospects, is introductions. You want to introduce your prospect to as many other distributors or members or consultants as possible, okay? And the reason being because, a very short hello and welcome by other distributors is perfect. You don't really want to talk about the business. You want to make them feel like they're welcome. You want to show your prospect that in this group, in this community, we have a very friendly community where everyone helps everyone and is willing to help everyone. Again, it's giving your prospect a lot more confidence in this business. The last thing you want to have is a separation of teams where you don't introduce your prospect to other people, because it's showing that you're not really all friendly. People don't want that. People want to be in an environment where there's abundance of help, support, love, and caring all over the place. Okay, so make sure when you get there to introduce your prospect to as many other people as possible. Now, one other key note here as well is, let's say that you knew that your prospect was, for example, in IT. Okay, So aside from having them meet other people who are, just saying hello, you definitely want to have them talk to someone like myself, because I was also in IT as a programmer, for over like 7 8 years in a job. So why do you think it's important to have your programming friend who is in IT also get a chance to talk to me? Because I can share with them, hey, yeah, well, I'll ask them a question. So what do you do, by the way? Oh, I'm in IT. Oh, well, so am I. I was in IT for the last 9 years. And of course, now I'm actually retired from IT. And so, what my job is as another distributor in the company, when you bring your people to me, is to create more curiosity in your prospect. I want them sitting in their chair thinking, how did that guy go from being in IT for like 7 8 years to now being retired? He's only like 35 years old, right? So, again, the whole purpose is to have them feel welcomed, but also create more curiosity for your prospect. So then they're looking more forward to understanding, what is this business? It's got to be good, because that guy over there, who's in IT, that guy over there who was in, Q&A in IT was able to now, they're all in this business. Why are all these people that have jobs like me also in this business? So again, likewise, if you met someone who's a stay-at-home mom, you want to find some other people in the room. And again, and so you want to also get to know the stories of other people who are also, at your weekly events, because they are the ones that have the stories that you can relate back to your prospects. Okay, so if I knew someone, for example, who was a teacher, I would definitely have them be introduced to, Courtney, because Courtney, again, is a principal of a school, right? If I knew someone who was in accounting, I would find someone like Ruth, because, or Brian Arundel, because they were all in accounting. If I knew someone who was in business, who was really wealthy, I'd have them meet Ed Mercer. So, you have to get to know all the stories of the people, not just in your team, but all over in your weekly meetings, because you can use them towards your benefit. Okay, so that's why introductions are so important. The next one, quick tip here, is seating at events. So here, again, you want to get a seat as close to the presenter as possible, and you want to avoid back seats. Again, back seats are not cool in this business. Okay, it's not like your old high school days. We want to be in the back of the classroom, whatever it is. In our business, avoid the back seats if you can, because if there is a sunblock in the room, and what a sunblock is, for those of you who don't know what sunblock is, a sunblock is someone who's very negative. Okay, and when they leave the room lights up. Okay, that's a sunblock, right? So if you have a sunblock in the room, you want to make sure that the sunblock's negative energy is behind your candidate, behind your prospect, and not ahead. You don't want your prospect, if it's someone who's negative, who's talking a lot, who's like, like shaking their head or just being negative. You don't want to have that person in front of you, okay? So if you already know that your candidate is excited and ready to launch the business, the last thing you want to have them see is a negative person, right? Then you want to ensure that they are in the front seat to, again, to set the right tone for other guests, because again, excitement is contagious. All right, so if you have someone who's really excited, you want them front of the room, nodding their head, and agreeing, giving that positive energy back to, the actual presenter. But the main thing here is, uh, don't sit at the back of the room, because let's say your prospect sees someone else in the middle who is, using their cell phone. It might prompt your prospect to use their cell phone. People who usually sit at the front of the room don't use their cell phone. What that means for you is that your prospect or your candidate is 100% focused on the presenter. You always have a good presenter in front of the room, right? And what you want your candidate to be doing is to be focusing 100% on the things that the presenter is talking about. You don't want them to be thinking about anything else except for what the presenter is talking about, right? Sometimes, the presenter has a really key point that they're mentioning, and maybe your prospect got influenced by someone else, and now they're not focusing on the presenter. So many times I see prospects being distracted by other people in the room. So all in all, if you want to have the most bang for your buck, the most, most what do you call it, the best use of your time, you want to get your prospect to the front of the room. Even if you go in a bit late, bring your prospect as far to the front of the room as possible and have them sit there, okay? Because that's the best place to be. You know, it's kind of like when you're watching a movie. You don't want to be too far back because sometimes people who use their cell phones might bother you, or if people are sort of moving their head too much or talking, you don't want that to be in front of you, right? The same concept here. Okay, so the next part is again staying in the room. So here, you want to make sure. Oh, sorry, I actually didn't have the slides changing before. So just to go back to you guys here, we talked about again introductions, right? We talked about again seating at the events, okay? And so the next part here is actually going to be talking about staying in the room, okay? And so what happens here is, and it's kind of back, I've seen it happen a few times, whereas people who are in the meetings don't actually stay in the room, okay? So if you ever are in a meeting and you're not staying in the room with your candidate, you're really going to be hurting your own business. So always stay in the room with your candidate through the entire tour, okay? Don't abandon your new prospect and make phone calls outside. Don't be on your cell phone texting while you're beside them. When you're there, you want your prospect 100% focused again on the presenter. So any distractions you don't want to do. Don't be on your cell phone. Don't be taking calls outside. Don't leave your prospect there, because if you do that, you're also setting a bad example for them. So when they get into the business, now you have what's called bad duplication. You don't want to have bad duplication, right? You want to have good duplication. So they will follow your lead when they become a member. So you want to show with them that when you're in a meeting room that you get 100% focus is on your prospect, no texting, no calling, and another thing that I see that's really distracting as well too is I see people who are constantly talking to their prospect during the meeting. Like that to me makes no sense. I mean, yeah, you can, if you have a really exciting, point that the presenter makes, you can turn to your prospect and nod your head, or if they're clapping, you want to clap with them, but you don't want to, you don't want to have conversations with your prospect. You don't want to be talking to them because again, if you're talking to your prospect, two things happen. Number one, you're distracting them and they're not paying attention to the presenter. And the second thing that you're doing if you're talking to your prospect is that now you're disturbing the presenter. Imagine if you're up there presenting in front of the room and you have people talking in the audience. It's just honestly rude, first of all, right? But it's also very distracting. So make sure that when you're there to stay in the room, and also don't be on your cell phone, okay? So the next one here that you want to also do too is what we call the product or business testimonials. So always try to arrange with the presenter or other top leaders there to invite you for a product or business testimonial. So sometimes, if you're shy, okay, and you don't like to talk in front of the room, remember, it's very important for your candidates because they're attracted to strength and not weakness, okay? So if you're shy and you don't really want to do your own testimonial for, product or business, make sure that you arrange or go find one of the My Five or other leaders and have them share with your prospect, more of their own testimonials. Now, usually in meetings, we do have a lot of people who are called up to share testimonials for product or for business. But again, if you know someone in the room, one of the leaders out there, or even just any regular, consultant, but they have a very similar background to your prospect, you want to find that person, find that programmer, find that accountant, find that doctor or lawyer, because we have them all in our business, and have them share the testimonial with your person. Because again, the more that you can relate this business to your prospect and show how other people that are in their same profession are also in the business, it gives them hope. It makes them feel like they're not the only weird ones out there, right? So again, when I found out that there was other programmers or other, business professionals in GWT, it made me feel more confident about saying yes. I thought, well, if there's a lawyer in this company, then it's got to be a good company, right? I mean, that happens sometimes, right? Okay, so the next one here is post-tour is to support the presenter. Oh my goodness, if there's one thing I gotta stress the most that will help you close your prospect is give some love to the presenter. Like show your love and abundance of love, okay? So the presenters need support from the audience while they are doing the tour, okay? So you want to head nod, you want to applaud, you want to respond to the questions that are asked by the presenter, and the more head nods and audience participation there are, the more momentum is created in the tour. The more energy there is, the more enthusiasm there is, and the more momentum there is. And so, if you ever feel the room is a little bit quiet, heck, don't be shy to be the one to start clapping and and giving some whistles, right? So a lot of times when I'm in a meeting, if I find that the room energy is low, I'm gonna be the first one to start clapping. Don't be shy to clap, because once you start clapping, others will clap along too. And if the presenter makes a joke, don't be a loser. Freaking laugh, okay? I don't care if you heard the joke 100,000 times. You want to keep on laughing. Why? Because it's giving the right energy for your prospect. Again, you've taken all that time to bring your prospect into that tour. The last thing you want to have in that room is a dead room. You want to have a room full of excitement, right? So, the presenters are not, they're there for you, right? And so you want to make sure that when the presenter is presenting, that you give them as much energy as possible, because you're really helping yourself. The whole saying, help us help you. Really, that's what you're doing. You're helping us help you. Okay, so remember, and this is something that even some leaders fail to do. I've seen some meetings where the leaders, they're just, they're so used to the tour. Maybe they're bored. I don't know what the heck. But even if you're a leader, make sure 100% you're giving all of your energy to the presenter. Because again, how would you feel if you were the one in front of the room and there's not a lot of energy, right? So this coming Thursday, when we have the meeting here in Toronto, all of you in this call, you want to give 100% of your energy to that presenter. I think I made my point here, so we can go on to the next point here. Okay, post-tour. You want to assess energy levels, okay? So really important here. Assess the room energy after the tour, okay? If the energy is high, then you want to start the post-tour process and the survey in the room with the other guests, okay? If the energy is low for whatever reason, especially if you have a sunblock in the room, you want to grab your prospect to get some water or coffee and find a quiet place, somewhere in that location to do the survey, answer questions, okay? A quick tip here, offer to get them launched first, okay? So what I'm saying here is, if you ever, are on a tour and you find that the energy is low or you have someone negative, you want to isolate that person as quickly as possible, okay? You want to literally isolate them from that negativity, right? However, if the room is full of great energy, you want to keep them in that room, because what's going to happen is someone's going to start, welcoming some new members, right? And having some really high energy. And you want to make sure that your person also gets that same kind of energy as well too, right? Okay, so all in all, you want to make sure, again, that you want to isolate negativity if it's there. Otherwise, don't forget, I always like to offer my prospects to help them get launched first. What I mean is, the second a tour is done, usually the presenter has, given you guys on the PowerPoint the next steps. They've told you, so what you want to do right now is you want to take action, you want to, get your GC, you want to launch your diamond email right away. Timing is key, don't wait. Most presenters will say that, right? So the second the tour is done, what you want to do is, turn to your prospect and say, and you can say things like, I hope you can see why I'm so excited, and like the presenter said, you want to launch your email right away. Can I help you launch your email right away, right now? So all you're saying is, again, you're repeating what the presenter said. So remember how the presenter was saying, that you want to launch right away, get your position. Can I help you launch your email right now? So you offer first, right? So always assume your prospect wants to get started. And so I want to add a quick point here. Aside from assessing the energy of the room, you also want to assess your prospect. Okay, you're gonna get a feeling if your prospect is like really pumped up, and if they're pumped up, hey, you want to hand them that application form right away if they're pumped up, right? If they're feeling a bit low, you still want to lead with positivity and say, man, wasn't that fantastic? Can you see now I'm so excited about this business here? And like the presenter said, you want to get launched right away, get your tax savings right away. Can I help you get launched right now? Right? So I always still lead with the positive, like assuming that they're going to say yes, because if they're not ready yet, then now it's time for the survey and Q&A, right? But what you don't want to do after the tour is done is turn to your prospect and say, what did you think about the meeting? With low energy, like, oh my goodness, you're shooting yourself in the head if you do that, right? So again, you want to make sure that you lead with positivity after the tour. Don't ask open-ended questions. Don't ask questions like, well, what did you think? They can say it sucked, right? I mean, who knows, right? Always lead with a very direct question, like, can I help you launch your email right away and get that positioning in right now? Okay, so really important to just know that point. And I think I covered just pretty much what to do here, okay? Now, if you're the person that has a sunblock in the room, please don't, contaminate the rest of the people. Grab your sunblock and freaking bring him outside, okay? So if you are the one that has a sunblock prospect, get him out of the room and ask one of your My Five if they can help you talk to your sunblock, okay? So you don't want to ruin it for everyone else, okay? So that pretty much covers this point over here. The next one is welcome loudly. So when your candidate launches their business or indicates they will in the future, so really important, whether they launch now or not, or they tell you I'm going to launch in a week from now, what you want to do is welcome them loudly. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, so and so going to be launching their business, very soon, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, just welcome that new person. Welcome, John. They're launching their email. And give them some love, right? Because if they're telling you they're going to launch a week from now, and all of a sudden everyone's cheering them on, they might launch right away, right? But the whole point is to set the tone for other guests to follow, okay? And oftentimes, I would even walk up to other members who are sitting with their guests, and ask them to shout out a welcome, to my new distributor, So if I actually have a new person that got launched, I usually expect by now the other leaders will know to come over and welcome the new guests. And likewise, when you have new guests, we're going to welcome, of course, your guests as well too. Like, we're actually going to go up to your guests and literally welcome them directly ourselves. But if you welcome your new member and no one else is coming around, go and grab someone and say, hey, would you mind coming over here and welcoming my new member, right? So, but just don't disturb what they're doing. Kind of do it very, very, sort of subtly as well too. So again, always help each other without disrupting their post-tour process. So if you see someone is in a really sort of heavy discussion about to close their prospect, then don't disrupt that, right? But if you find someone else just sitting around chit-chatting with other people, how they come over to welcome your new member, okay? So and again, you always can ask the distributors you are comfortable with to come by your table or your chair in post tour to make a quick 30-second unity and teamwork impression for your candidate. Okay, so this is especially true if you have a high-ranking distributor in your room, such as an ambassador or regional ambassador or national ambassador. Then don't forget that these high-ranking members' words really do carry much more weight. Okay, kind of like when you're in a restaurant and somehow the manager comes out and walks by just to make sure that your dinner was okay, you feel a lot better about that, right? So likewise, if you have a prospect in the room, you want to make sure that you get a chance to have some high-ranking member in the company to share a few words with your prospect. It does go that much further as well, okay? But the main thing is, I see some people that when the person has giving you the heads up that they want to get started, and now they're filling out the form, don't wait until they're done filling out the form to get started. You want to, you want to create that momentum by welcoming them right away, even before they start filling out the form, right? So, hey guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome my newest member, John Doe. He's launching right now. Give him some love. Everyone's gonna come over, right? So you don't have to wait until they're fully in the system. Once they indicate to you they will launch or launch in the future, you still want to welcome them, okay? Next part here, of course, is, just basic manners. Say goodbye, okay? So when you're leaving the meeting, make an effort to say goodbye to other distributors, okay? This shows your family and friendship environment to your candidate, okay? You want to just to show your new candidate or prospect that there's a big sense of family here. Establishing the unity and teamwork is a lot more important than you may think. Remember, stats clearly show that the majority of the jobs workforce is not happy with their jobs. So a great environment is a major asset to the new prospect. So showing them that here, it's cheerful, people help each other, there's a lot of love going around, it's teamwork. It gives them an environment that they want to be in. And again, it gives them more confidence to say yes, okay? The last one here, again, is just almost like start momentum. So again, momentum is everything in the post-tour phase. I have seen 100% join ratios, like all 13 guests launch simultaneously after the tour because of the great momentum and energy. And I've also seen zero join ratio, like 20 guests or more and no one signs up, right? The difference in these two scenarios was some controllable negative elements that caused a person to want to sleep on it, even though they had no reason why they would say no to the business, right? So in closing, just to be very clear here, this process that we're talking about tonight is not to manipulate, a prospect to joining, but it's just, to join the cause of really painting the picture for your new prospect of what direct selling MLM life is really like. It's no different than, if you're, going to a sporting game, watching a baseball game or watching a hockey game, right? When your team scores, do you cheer? Yeah, right. So in the Blue Jays, for example, when they had that what I think a 3-run home run, imagine if no one's cheering. Imagine they had this grand slam and everyone in the chair is just like looking bored, not cheering, low energy. It's retarded, right? So it's not that we're trying to manipulate prospects, but we're just trying to paint the picture of what it should be. Just like, if your baseball team wins or your hockey team wins, you just show some energy, right? Likewise, this business is a hope for all of you people to have a better life. So show that same energy, right? Okay. Some really cool last minute closing quotes that you can use with your prospects sometimes is, more money is lost in America due to non-decision than bad decision, from Lee Lacoco, right? So again, some of the people who are just, if they're not decisive, they're like thinking about it, you can use this quote. If they know Jim Rohn, take action on that new idea now while it is strong, because a week from now, the idea is weak, and a month from now, it is nowhere to be found, right? Another great quote from Tony Robbins is, take action today towards that new idea, not a week from now, not 2 weekdays from now, today. So just some really cool, powerful quotes from really well-known people that can help you in closing, okay? And so pretty much that sort of concludes today's training. I hope that you guys had a lot of good, benefit from today's training, because really these are some of the things that I wish that I would have learned, a long time ago, because some of the stuff here I did learn myself actually my first few months in the company. But again, it's because I really attended a lot of training from our own very own CEO. So all in all, I hope you guys have enjoyed tonight's training, and I hope to get put to really good use. And it calls back to our wonderful host, Aaron Spreen. Aaron, back to you.
Thank you, Renee. Wow, wow, wow. That was amazing. I totally hear you through and through when you said, it's too bad we didn't know some of this way back when. It's all good. There's all reasons why we're all here now and we found our home with Global Wealth Trade. So, and another point in that presentation about the nodding to the presenter and giving them lots of love and energy. I remember when Lior just was out here a week and a half ago, 10 days ago, we were doing our little powwow sizzle with the planning committee, and he talked about bobbleheads, and I think one of us said, "Oh, geez, we're just fairy bobbleheads." So we've all laughed about that, and it just sticks with us because we're just bobbleheads. We just, even though we've seen the tour, the presentation a bazillion times, we get excited just like a FedEx box comes to our door. So that's another way of bringing the energy to the room. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know many of us probably got amazing nuggets again. It's the same content, but sometimes, again, it's a different presenter, different leader sharing, and little stories, just absolutely amazing. So with that being said, I'm going to jump quickly over. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm going to switch my screen. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my... Oh, wrong. There we go. Oh. Here, let me just minimize this. Got somebody. There we go. Can everybody see my screen? Renee, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can now, Aaron. I can see the Ramin's. Oh no, our CEO.
Yeah, I'm just gonna speed through this because obviously we're past these guys. And I know Mr. Lior Scaler, for our announcements now, is definitely, I believe, shortly on the plane coming back. He had definitely impacted a lot of the Australians over there in Perth and Melbourne. Congrats to all those guys. I know I was on their weekly webinar team call as a guest speaker, sharing the excitement, revving them up, and I can tell you it was really hard to not share what was going to happen. So get excited because I know Toronto is going to have 007 flying into, and I know many of us are very excited to see him again. I'm going to see him in a short 10 days from the time that I just seen him, so it's very exciting. So get ready, guys. So, and of course, this Thursday is our mega tour. There is 3 full days to smile and dial, like we say, call, email, text. Obviously, try to do as much personal one-on-one with people because people follow people. We're in an amazing industry here, so get very excited. I can't wait because I remember last year when we attended this mega tour last October, we were kind of blown away. We had no idea what we were about to go into, and we got a really good bird's eye view. So now we do, and I know we're definitely inviting like crazy. We have some confirmed guests coming in, and we have LCs coming in all over, not in Ontario. And we have also LCs that are not attending this conference for some reason or another, and they are inviting like crazy because many of us leaders from different teams are going to be there in attendance, and we can take care of their prospects and guests. So definitely make sure you're there early, 6 p.m. registration. The mega tour runs from 7:30 to 8:30. The comp plan and training is 8:30 to 9:30. $10 for LCs. All guests are, guests are free. I've got to breathe here. So it's very, very exciting what's going to transpire. And heck, whoever gets the most guests, I believe it was, it gets a tablet. Like, how cool is that? And there's lots of cash prizes up for grabs as well. 9 days left. No, actually, it's about 3 days left, and it's 95%. Definitely sold out. I'm sure it's even probably less than that now. So definitely, if you're looking for a last-minute ticket, jump in that CDSE group chat, and we'll definitely, I'm sure there's a few odd ones that last minute can't make it, so we will make sure that your newest LC or your guest would want to come and attend the entire conference. So, of course, we've heard it over and over and over. There's going to be major announcements, the Fairy catalog release, a preview for the Fairy Flawless, exclusive convention ticket offer, lots of updates on many different things, and a huge expansion on the Posh, and that's going to be Saturday. It's going to be very exciting, and of course, to end the whole entire weekend off, the CDSE party, so we can't wait for that as well. So definitely hurry up and get the tickets. And like you heard last night, Jessica said that there was people that called in recently, less than 24 hours ago, and there you gotta just ask with lots of gracious thankfulness to see if you can get that 129, right? So hopefully you can. I know we've all been there in April, and the staff there are absolutely amazing. So I'm sure they will make it happen. So, because they love our business. So definitely book rooms. If there's people, last minute people needing rooms, I know there's some rooms that are not totally full, and we might as well jam pack the rooms full, so it saves a few dollars for everybody that are traveling in from a distance. Special tax training, of course, our NA Abdul Razak. I know he's already in Canada, so welcome to Canada, Abdul Razak. So that's going to be a very exciting, the Monday right after the conference. So get as many of your brand new LCs out there. They can bring their people, so you can really truly see a huge snowball effect on the 17th at 7:30. And of course, that just rolls 2 days later to the weekly tour in Toronto, and again, special presenter Abdul Razak. Boy, can I wish I could be there in Toronto a little bit longer. I can't wait to see that online. It's going to be amazing for ourselves that live farther distance. We can jump online. I'm sure it'll be on GoToWebinar link. Always is. So again, $10 for LCs. The guests are free. Monthly pass holders are free as well. So that's going to be exciting on the 19th. And then Monday the 24th, we have our wonderful Sherry Zhao, our female millionaire and national ambassador. It's amazing, exciting. I know she just arrived yesterday in Toronto. I see that she was having her Thanksgiving dinner with her family. So very much welcome back to Canada, Sherry. Can't wait to see you in less than 48 hours, less than that. So it's very, very exciting. So that's going to be the Monday night tax training, the 24th. And of course, 2 days later, Sherry is the guest presenter for the Wednesday weekly tour in Toronto. So this is the time, like I said, to definitely go and smile and dial as many people as you can for Toronto area, because there's a huge support there. There's lots of stuff happening, and it's definitely buzzing with excitement. And then the following Monday for the tax savings, we have Diplomat Anil Ramachar conducting that one on October the 31st. So that is Halloween night. He's allowing all the moms and dads to go out there with their kids. So congrats, Anil. Appreciate all your stepping up, everybody working around everybody's schedules. But definitely, I watched him come out here in Alberta, and he absolutely rocked it. So definitely a strong, strong leader there. So that's the 31st. And of course, that rolls into the beginning of November. We have our wonderful Caribbean conference, palm trees and beautiful blue sea, and oh my god, it's just sand in the toes. But this is a huge jam-packed weekend from the Thursday right till the Sunday, November 3rd to the 6th. Many, many top leaders, and of course our own Ramin and Sanaz, CEO and the Senior VP Chief Designer, is going to be there in person. Breza, Sean Haynes, Bernicia, Arthur Anthony, everybody's going to be there. So what a marvelous time. We know what transpired in their country just recently, and there's definitely huge opportunities. So start reaching out to a lot of amazing people down there and bring people out to that amazing jam-packed 5 days. So it's going to be, social media is going to be buzzing when that happens, guaranteed. So I'm very, very exciting. So definitely get your ticket. And of course, the one thing before the international convention, obviously we have our Ramin and Sanaz heading out to Australia, to Perth and Melbourne, end of November. The flyer is coming, so please be very, very patient. There's lots of exciting times coming ahead there. After them having Lior, I know they're absolutely revved up. Hit the pedal to the metal, and you know what, sometimes that happens, right? So it's really, really exciting. So that's going to be coming up very shortly for those dates, end of November. And of course that rolls us, of course, through into Christmas. I'm sure there's lots of surprises coming out before then, guaranteed. Rolls into the New Year's webinar. Boy, am I catching on to this, how everything rolls, right? And then, of course, rolls right into our amazing international convention in 2017, 11th annual convention at the Niagara Falls at the Sheraton. Wow, unbelievable. I know many people have already booked their rooms. They haven't got the room block yet. I'm sure possibly that might be sent out this weekend. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. It's March the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. It's going to be out of this world. It's going to be very, very exciting. Events, events, events. That's all what this amazing industry is all about. People helping people. People creating friendships, lifelong friendships. It's raising people up, lifting people up. So that being said, the announcements are done. I'm just going to double check if there's any questions, and I believe there is. Okay,